The mind has a dark side. Most fear it. Few understand it. Dark Mind Insights. Master the unseen.
Have you ever walked into a room and noticed that the most powerful person there is almost never the loudest? Think about it. We're conditioned from a very young age to believe that power looks like dominance, the booming voice, the aggressive chest-puffed posture, the person who interrupts, who dictates, who takes up all the physical and auditory space in a room. We watch movies and see the ruthless executive screaming at their subordinates, or the aggressive debater steamrolling their opponent, and we mistake this sheer volume for authority. But true, lasting psychological power, it doesn't scream. It doesn't have to. Loudness is often a disguise for profound insecurity. When someone feels small, they compensate by trying to make themselves appear large. When they feel out of control, they try to forcefully control their environment. Today, we're going to look at the subtle, invisible, and incredibly deep psychological habits of truly powerful people. This isn't about manipulation. We aren't discussing how to play dark mind games, or how to alpha someone, or how to make others feel small. Those are the tactics of the deeply insecure. This is about something much more profound, the psychology of self-mastery. We are going to explore what it means to understand human behavior so deeply that you become entirely immune to the noise, the provocations, and the endless demands of the world around you. When you possess this kind of quiet power, your presence alone commands respect. You don't demand it, you naturally draw it out of people. Let's explore the psychological framework of how the truly powerful protect their peace, navigate complex human dynamics, and how you can adopt these very same principles in your own life. 1. The economy of words. The first and most noticeable trait of a quietly powerful person is what psychologists and linguists call the economy of words. Think about the last time you had to say no to a request, decline an invitation, or disagree with a colleague. Did you simply say no? Or did you immediately launch into a 3-minute frantic explanation about how busy you are, how tired you are, how your car is in the shop, your dog is sick, and you have a deadline approaching? For most people, the immediate instinct is to over-explain. But what is actually happening beneath the surface of this behavior? Over-explaining is, at its core, a trauma response and a symptom of chronic people-pleasing. It is a subtle, unconscious plea for permission. When we over-explain our boundaries, we are secretly hoping that the other person will validate our choice, absolve us of guilt, and tell us it's okay to say no. We are essentially saying, please don't be mad at me. Here are all the reasons my no is justified. Do you accept my reasons? Powerful people do not ask for permission to exist, nor do they ask for permission to set a boundary. They operate from a deep internal belief that their boundary is a complete sentence. They understand the concept of JADE, an acronym used in psychology that stands for justify, argue, defend, and explain. When you are dealing with reasonable people, a brief explanation is a courtesy. But when you are setting a firm boundary or dealing with someone who pushes your limits, engaging in JADE completely undermines your authority. The moment you start justifying, you are handing the other person ammunition to dismantle your argument. If you say you can't come because you are tired, they will tell you to drink some coffee. If you say you are busy, they will ask you to just drop by for 10 minutes. A person with quiet psychological power avoids JADE entirely. If they cannot make it, they say, I won't be able to attend. If they disagree with a consensus in a meeting, they say, I see it differently, and wait to be asked for their perspective. They do not fill the conversational space with nervous justification. They state their truth, and they let it land. They tolerate the momentary discomfort of not being perfectly understood because they know they do not owe the world an exhaustive list of their reasons. The next time you find yourself rambling to justify a completely reasonable decision, catch yourself, breathe, put a period at the end of your sentence. Let your no stand on its own 2 feet. 2. Strategic silence, the vacuum effect. This brings us to a second, highly potent psychological reality, the power of the pause, otherwise known as strategic silence. Human beings are intensely social creatures. We are biologically wired to fear social rejection because thousands of years ago, being rejected by the tribe meant certain death. To the human nervous system, unexpected silence in a social interaction feels like rejection. It feels like a void. It triggers a mild anxiety response. When an uncomfortable silence opens up in a conversation, almost everyone will panic and rush to fill it. They will start babbling, backtracking, nervously laughing, or revealing things they never intended to say, just to relieve the tension. But a grounded, self-mastered person, they are entirely comfortable in the void. They know how to hold space without feeling the frantic need to decorate it with words. Imagine you are in a negotiation for a new job or dealing with a highly disrespectful comment. Someone throws a ridiculously low-ball offer at you, or a relative makes a passive-aggressive jab at a dinner party. The immediate ego-driven instinct is to immediately snap back, to defend yourself, to argue your worth. But the powerful move is to simply look at them. Maintain relaxed, unblinking, yet soft eye contact and say absolutely nothing for 3 to 5 seconds. In those few seconds of silence, the entire energy of the room shifts. The silence acts as a psychological mirror, reflecting their disrespect, their poorly thought-out comment, or their ridiculous offer right back onto them. You are creating a vacuum. Nature abhors a vacuum, and so does the human ego. Without you lifting a single finger or raising your voice a fraction of a decibel, the other person will usually begin to stumble. They will negotiate against themselves, offer a better deal, or awkwardly backtrack and apologize for the insult. Well, that's just the starting offer. We have wiggle room. Or, I was just joking. You know I didn't mean it that way. You didn't manipulate them. You didn't attack them. You just refused to participate in their chaos. You let their own words hang in the air for them to examine. Silence is the most terrifying sound to a person who is insecure. Learn to wield it, and you will never need to raise your voice again. 3. The unreactive center. There is a fundamental rule in the study of human dynamics. The person who controls the emotional climate of the room controls the room. We encounter people every single day who are emotionally dysregulated. Insecure, unhappy, or toxic people constantly try to regulate their own internal discomfort by provoking yours. If they feel inadequate, they will try to make you angry. If they feel anxious, they will try to spread that panic to you. They operate like emotional vampires. They cannot generate their own sense of power, so they try to siphon it from you by getting a reaction. They desperately want you to meet them at their frantic frequency. When someone attacks a deeply self-assured person, they don't get defensive. They get curious. They detach. They take a step back in their own mind and look at the aggressor as if they were a fascinating psychological specimen. Let's say a coworker tries to belittle you in front of your team to make themselves look smarter. Instead of getting flustered, turning red, and fighting back, a truly powerful person will let the comment land. They will tilt their head, look at the coworker almost scientifically, and ask in a remarkably calm, flat tone, "What was your goal in saying that just now?" Or even simpler, "Are you okay?" By asking a calm, probing question, you do something brilliant. You take the glaring spotlight off of your reaction and you shine it directly onto their hidden motive. You expose the mechanics of what they are trying to do. You neutralize the attack entirely simply by refusing to be moved by it. You become the anchor in the storm, and the storm always breaks against the anchor. The anchor never breaks against the storm. When people realize they cannot control your emotions, they will eventually stop trying. They will move on to an easier target. Your peace becomes impenetrable. 4. Radical acceptance of reality. To maintain that unreactive center, one must practice another profound psychological habit: radical acceptance. Much of our daily exhaustion, anxiety, and loss of power comes from fighting reality. We argue with the way things are. We try to force people to be who we want them to be, rather than who they actually are. Think about how much energy you have wasted in your life trying to explain your point of view to someone who is absolutely committed to misunderstanding you. Think about how many times you have tried to change a toxic family member or fix a broken partner, hoping that if you just found the perfect combination of words, they would suddenly wake up, realize their flaws, and treat you with the respect you deserve. This is a profound drain on your personal power. You are pouring your energy into a bottomless well. Psychologically powerful people do not live in the world of shoulds. They do not say, "He shouldn't act like this," or "She should understand me by now." Instead, they deal strictly in what is. This is radical acceptance. It does not mean you approve of someone's bad behavior. It means you accept that it is happening, completely and without illusion. When someone shows you they are manipulative, selfish, or chronically dishonest, a powerful person accepts this data immediately. They do not try to rehabilitate the manipulator. They do not sit them down for hours trying to logically convince them to be a better person. They simply say to themselves, "Ah, this is who this person is. I will adjust my level of trust and access accordingly." They downgrade the person's clearance level in their life. There is an immense, quiet power in looking at a toxic person and realizing, I don't need to fix you, I don't need to change you, and I certainly don't need to argue with you. I just need to manage my exposure to you. By accepting reality exactly as it is, you stop giving your power away to phantoms. You stop relying on other people to change in order for you to be happy. You take your focus off of their dysfunction and place it firmly back onto your own choices. 5. Outcome independence, the art of detachment. Building upon radical acceptance is a concept that master negotiators and elite psychologists know intimately: outcome independence. In any dynamic, whether it is a business deal, a romantic relationship, or a social interaction, the person who needs the outcome the least holds the most power. Desperation is a very loud frequency. People can subconsciously smell it when you need them to like you. They can sense when you are terrified of losing the deal, or when you are deeply afraid a relationship might end. And unfortunately, human nature dictates that when people sense your desperation, they will instinctively devalue you. They will push your boundaries, offer you less, and treat you as an option rather than a priority. Outcome independence does not mean you don't care. It does not mean apathy. Apathy is a defense mechanism. It's pretending you don't care because you are afraid of getting hurt. Outcome independence means you are deeply engaged. You have a preference for how things go, but your core sense of safety and self-worth is not tied to the result. It is the deep internalized knowing that says, I want this job, but if I don't get it, I will be absolutely fine. Or, I love this person, but if they cannot treat me with respect, I am entirely willing to walk away. The willingness to walk away is the ultimate psychological trump card. When you are truly unbothered by the prospect of walking away, your entire demeanor changes. Your posture relaxes, your voice drops an octave, you stop rushing, you stop over-compromising. You express your terms clearly and you hold them firmly. And ironically, this detached energy is incredibly magnetic. When people sense that you do not need them, they suddenly want you. When a toxic person realizes that their threat to leave does not terrify you, their primary weapon is neutralized. Powerful people cultivate a life, a mindset, and a sense of self-love that is so rich and secure that anything outside of themselves is just a bonus. They enter rooms not looking for validation, but simply observing to see if the room aligns with their standards. 6. The art of active observation. Because they are not consumed by the need for validation, quietly powerful people possess the mental bandwidth to do something most people rarely do. They actively observe. Most people do not listen in conversations. They merely wait for their turn to speak. While the other person is talking, they are busy formulating their next clever point, trying to figure out how to steer the conversation back to themselves, or worrying about how they are being perceived. A psychologically powerful person is highly observant. They view interactions as data-gathering missions. Because they are employing the economy of words and strategic silence, they are freeing up their cognitive resources to read the room. They watch micro-expressions. They notice when someone's body language doesn't match their words. They pay attention to who interrupts who is seeking whose approval, and what is being left unsaid. There is a saying, "Speak only if it improves upon the silence." Because powerful people speak less, when they do speak, their words carry the weight of a sledgehammer. People listen. Have you ever been in a meeting where everyone is talking over each other, arguing in circles for an hour, and then the one person who has been quiet the entire time finally leans forward? The whole room goes dead silent. They wait for that person to speak. That person hasn't diluted their presence with useless chatter. They have gathered all the data, synthesized it, and now they are delivering the verdict. By becoming the watcher rather than the performer, you step out of the frantic race for attention. You begin to understand people's hidden motives, their insecurities, and their desires. You begin to read the psychological matrix of the room. You can't be easily deceived because you're paying attention to actions, patterns, and subtle cues, rather than just the words people are using to sell themselves. The true nature of power. Notice how none of the behaviors we have discussed today involve aggression. None of them involve bullying or manipulation or making someone else feel small in order to make yourself feel big. That is the grand illusion of power in our modern society. We are sold the lie that power is a weapon used to conquer others. But true psychological power is not a weapon, it is a shield. It is an inside job. It is the deep, unwavering knowledge of who you are, what your core values are, and what you will and will not accept in your life. It is the quiet confidence that comes from knowing you can handle whatever the world throws at you, not by controlling the world, but by completely controlling yourself. When you stop over-explaining and pleading for permission, when you stop fearing silence and learn to hold space, when you stop reacting to people who are drowning in their own emotional chaos, when you accept reality instead of fighting it, and when you detach your worth from the outcomes of a deeply flawed world, you stop leaking your precious life energy. You call your power back to yourself. You build an internal fortress that no insult, no rejection, and no toxic dynamic can penetrate. I want you to reflect on this deeply today. Look honestly at your own life and your own interactions. Where are you over-explaining yourself to people who are committed to misunderstanding you? Who are you handing the remote control of your emotions to on a daily basis? Where are you arguing with reality, trying to change someone who has no intention of changing? And what would happen if, just for today, you decided to simply be still, to observe instead of absorb? Power isn't about controlling the room. It never has been. It's about realizing deeply and profoundly that you do not have to be controlled by it. Thank you for spending this time with me. If these concepts resonated with you, if they brought you a sense of clarity or peace, let me know in the comments below. Take care of yourselves, guard your energy, and above all else, protect your peace.